On this episode of Sports for Beginners Season 5, the PWHL is coming to Canada, but which Canadian team will grab the glory? Plus, baseball topics continue to run around what is going on with the Toronto Blue Jays, and last night, the Toronto Tempo made history, winning their first franchise history WNBA game. Find out the final score of that. The PWHL is expanding. You also find out which two teams are battling for Walter Cup. And of course, the Stanley Cup chase continues. Who made it to the Eastern Conference and Western Conference final? All this plus so much more on this episode of Sports for Beginners Season 5. Welcome to our 8th episode, which kicks off now. Welcome to Sports for Beginners. This is the show where I cover the Pittsburgh Penguins, Toronto Blue Jays, and take you on a journey through the world of sports. From the fans' perspective, here is your host, Scott McGregor. Let's have some fun. What's going on, sports fans? What's going on, hockey fans? What's going on, basketball fans of all ages and in general? And most importantly, for those who love basketball but are Toronto basketball fans, if you love the WNBA, what's going on, Tempo Nation? That's right, we're going to be talking a little Toronto Tempo on this episode. My name is Scott McGregor, the host of Sports for Beginners, the podcast. I'm also the founder of the podcast as well, but I can't take too much credit for that because really the founder happened to be a woman who gave me the courage to get this podcast off the ground. Her name is Melanie Taddeo. She was the founder of Connect for Life, a charity in Canada, but also, up till recently, handed over the reins to a young man named Mark Brown. And Mark, I know that if you were still around, you would want me to continue doing this work that I do for Sports for Beginners, as well as helping out my brother on his podcast, On the Ice and Behind the Benches. So this episode is tailored to everybody at Connect for Life and fellow Toastmasters Mark Brown and his sister Suzanne Brown. These are for you. We start off our show, as you heard in the opening moments of the program, with our lead off for this episode. The PWHL Walter Cup Finals are coming to Canada. Canada, for the first time in PWHL history, two Canadian clubs will be battling it out for the Walter Cup glory and the chance to call themselves Walter Cup champions. But how did we get here? Well, if you've been following, as I'm sure PWHL hockey fans have been following, recently we went to a Game 5 situation between the defending Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost and the number one seeded this season, number one seeded Montreal Victoire. Some might call this a kick in the rear for Montreal, but they chose to take on the champions of the last two seasons. And guess what? They were able to get the job done in 5 games, beating Minnesota 2-1 on Tuesday, May the 12th, sending them to the Walter Cup Finals for the very first time. Now, Ottawa, just like Boston, has been to the Walter Cup Final before, but I don't think anybody other than Ottawa and now Montreal can say they had the glory of becoming Professional Women's Hockey League champions in an all-Canadian clash. Now, just to be frank here, Ottawa punched their ticket to the Walter Cup with a victory in double overtime in Game 4 against the Boston Fleet. A double overtime 4-3 win for the Charge punched their ticket to the Walter Cup. But if Game 5 of the Walter Cup semifinal between PWHL Minnesota and PWHL Montreal, also known as the Minnesota Frost and Montreal Victoire, if Minnesota won, Ottawa would be heading to the Grand Casino Arena in Minneapolis, Minnesota. If the Victoire won, which they did, in a close one, mind you, by a final score of 2-1, it sets the stage for the opening game, which goes down tonight as we record this on Thursday, May 14th, 2026. This sets the stage for our first matchup of that best-of-5 series, where the winner will be declared the 2026 PWHL Walter Cup champions. It can either be Ottawa or Montreal. Game 1 and Game 2 will be played tonight and Saturday afternoon, from Place Bell in Laval. Brianne Jenner in the primer saying, as charge captain, saying, "This is what we trained for. This is the dream. It would mean a lot to this group of players and staff to win the championship. We've been through a lot together. It would mean a lot to our fan base as well. We've had great crowds at our games. We notice the support that we have and the excitement around this playoff run. I still have moments where I pinch myself. I feel extremely lucky that I just get to be a part of it and get to play in these moments." Coach of the Victoire also saying in the primer, "I feel like there's good rivalry between every team in this league, but certainly the history that we have with Ottawa, there's a rivalry there. Also, our fans are so close together that there's an opportunity for people to travel back and forth, which is really cool. I think our league continues to grow the game on both sides of the border, and I think that people are really excited that the Walter Cup will have a new home this year." That was Victoire coach Corey Chevry in what they're saying. As per the primer, the PWHL Walter Cup Finals are presented by Scotiabank, and they begin at Place Bell between Montreal and Ottawa, the first ever All-Canadian Championship Series in league history. It's the first finals appearance for the first place Victoire, who have made the postseason in each of the league's 3 seasons. The fourth place Charge compete in their second straight final after qualifying for the playoffs on the last day of the season a second straight time. Ottawa punched their ticket with a 3-1 semifinal win over Boston and have been in Montreal since Tuesday, awaiting the Game 5 winner between the Victoire and 2-time defending champion Frost. Montreal holds a 3-4 all-time playoff record at Place Bell. Won 11 of 12 games at the primary home venue during the regular season, and are 23-2 in games where they have had a lead in Laval. Ottawa is 2-4 on the road in their playoff history, and went 2-4-0-7 in opposing PWHL markets this season, including 2 regulation losses at Place Bell. In addition to the first Canadian team to hoist the Walter Cup, the series will produce the first women to lead a championship team behind the bench in Montreal's Corey Chevry or Ottawa's Carla McLeod. Place Bell will be rocking to the music of DJ Tizzy, with the Canadian national anthem to be performed by Jennifer Lee Dupuis. Jennifer, I apologize if I pronounced the last name wrong. Following the game, fans can tune in for live reaction with Jocks and Jills streaming on the league's YouTube channel. And with that said, the stage is set for a best-of-5 series. The winner of the best-of-5 playoff series will be declared Walter Cup champions. Here's a rundown of it quickly before we shift our PWHL conversation and shift to our first commercial break. But our PWHL conversation will continue after the break as we shift from playoffs to expansion news. We will shift there in a second, but here's a quick rundown of the schedule to Wednesday, May 20th. But it could go into June if we go into 5 games. But the winner of the series will be declared Walter Cup champions. Who's it gonna be? First place Montreal Victoire or fourth place Ottawa Charge? I'll give you a prediction later in the show. When we return, action continues. Talking PWHL as we talk expansion. Where have the PWHL gone since expanding to Detroit? That answer, plus a tease of where they possibly will go before we even crown a champion when we continue. Also, when we continue, hockey coverage continues before we flip the page to a little basketball content. And on that flip the page of hockey content, we will flip the page from the PWHL to a check-in on the Stanley Cup playoffs. How are teams faring? Find out when Sports for Beginners, Episode 8, Season 5, continues. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Hey Allie, did you know we have a books panel?
I did not know that. When is it?
It takes place on the last Friday of each month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern.
Where we have fun and engaging conversations.
About a book that one of the panelists picks.
So, how can I learn more about the show?
To learn more, please visit bookspanel.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
The Books Panel is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. While you're over there, hit subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Welcome back, folks, to episode 8 of season 5 of Sports for Beginners. Title of our episode is Tempo win their first WNBA game in franchise history, Walter Cup Finals, PWHL Expansion, and more. That is our title of the episode. And speaking of PWHL Expansion, before we go any further into that topic, I want to talk about welcoming you back in case you missed it earlier. I am Scott McGregor, your host of the program. Now let's get to some news surrounding the Expansion Club. With PWHL Detroit recently announced, the PWHL has added 2 more teams to the fold that will begin play in the 2026-27 season. Canada, welcome to the Canadian side. PWHL Hamilton, who will be playing their home games at TD Coliseum. And on the American side, America, please welcome to the PWHL and the American side of things, playing their games at the home of the NHL's Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Vegas Golden Knights to be more specific. T-Mobile Arena will be home of PWHL Viva Las Vegas. Welcome to the league, PWHL Las Vegas. Las Vegas, Nevada and Hamilton, Ontario are getting hockey clubs, which will debut just like PWHL Detroit in the 2026-2027 PWHL season. Viva Las Vegas! Las Vegas and Hamilton, stand up as you are part of the expansion class of 2026 for PWHL hockey. They are the 2 new teams that will follow PWHL Detroit, joining the league's current 8 markets, including Boston, Minnesota, New York, Montreal, Ottawa, Seattle, Toronto, and Vancouver. Details about further expansion are forthcoming. Expansion roster building process and how expansion teams will be integrated into the 2026 PWHL draft will be announced in the coming weeks. We've got news here about PWHL Hamilton and PWHL Las Vegas. We'll read Las Vegas first before we go to Hamilton. Las Vegas is one of the fastest growing sports and entertainment destinations in North America and has proven its appetite to embrace both hockey and women's sports at the highest level. The PWHL's arrival in Las Vegas comes with support from the league's newest market since the Golden Knights' inaugural NHL season in 2017. Youth hockey participation in Nevada has surged, particularly among girls and women, with a 600% increase. Las Vegas has also established itself as one of the strongest fan bases for women's sports, highlighted by the success of the WNBA's Las Vegas Aces and continued investment in major sporting events across the market. The PWHL's expansion to Las Vegas also increases the league's geographic diversity as its first team in the American Southwest, introducing professional women's hockey to a new region of fans, combined with the city's accessibility, hospitality, infrastructure, and world-class facilities. Las Vegas is a strong long-term fit for the PWHL. PWHL Las Vegas will train at America First Center in Henderson, Nevada. In addition to the Golden Knights expansion efforts, were also supported by MGM Resorts International, joint venture owner of T-Mobile Arena. The colors were also announced for PWHL Las Vegas, which were inspired by the natural tones of southern Nevada, green and gold. While Las Vegas is known for the Strip, the area is beloved by the community for its natural surroundings. Green and gold and yellow represent the beauty of the desert and mountains that encircle Las Vegas, while gold is a nod to the glamour of what makes Vegas Vegas. And of course, the Golden Knights. PWHL Las Vegas is available to U.S. fans now at the pwhl.com/shop. Now for Hamilton. Fan fever for professional women's hockey in Hamilton was on full display when 16,012 fans came out for the PWHL's visit for the 2026 Takeover Tour, up at TD Coliseum on January 3rd, 2026. The third largest takeover tour crowd of the season and one of the top 20 attendances in league history. Of Hamilton Takeover Tour ticket buyers, more than 70% were purchasing their first PWHL game ticket, underscoring the league's opportunity to reach a distinct audience with the presence of Ontario's two other PWHL clubs, in other words, team. The Greater Hamilton area ranks among the largest cities in Canada and is within commuting distance from other highly populated areas such as the Waterloo region, St. Catharines, Niagara, and London. The Greater Golden Horseshoe features one of the strongest regions in the world for girls and women's hockey participation and development, exemplified by more than 15% of PWHL players hailing from the area. PWHL Hamilton's expansion effort is supported in partnership with Oakview Group, operator of TD Coliseum, and the City of Hamilton. As part of today's announcement, the league also revealed Hamilton's official team colors: gold, maroon, and cream. Gold is a hat tipped to the uniforms worn by the CFL's Hamilton Tiger Cats and the NHL's former Hamilton Tigers, while maroon pays homage to Steel Town by representing the color of aged steel. The permanent brand identity, including the team's name and logo, will be announced at a later date. PWHL Hamilton merchandise is available to Canadian fans now at the pwhl.com/shop. So if you would like to get some PWHL Hamilton, PWHL Detroit, PWHL Las Vegas merchandise, log on to the pwhl.com/shop and get your merch now. So where are they possibly going next? Well, it's been put out in reports, not necessarily PWHL reports, but it's been put out in reports that Canada will be getting another team, and that team looks like it's going to be PWHL Halifax. But I'm willing to raise the question, after potentially Halifax gets a PWHL team, are they done? Are we going to get more than 4 teams added to the league? Right now, the PWHL, with the addition of Detroit, Hamilton, and Las Vegas, is up to 11 clubs. By the time we possibly see a team in Halifax, if that is indeed true, the league will be a 12-team league. But are they willing to go the extra mile and make it a 13-team league before 2027-2026 play begins later this fall? And if so, who's next? I do have a couple of theories, but I'll save that for another time. Let's take a look right now at the NHL Stanley Cup playoff bracket. Most recently, in the NHL Eastern Conference, Carolina has punched their ticket to the Eastern Conference Final, and they are patiently awaiting Montreal or Buffalo to join them in the Eastern Conference Final. Meanwhile, in the Western Conference, with a 4-1 series win over the Minnesota Wild, the President's Trophy winners in the Western Conference and number 1 seed in the Western Conference of the NFL Colorado Avalanche are patiently awaiting the winner of tonight's game in Anaheim, unless it goes to Game 7, which would be back in Vegas. We have a 2-2 tie in the series between Montreal and Buffalo. The winner of tonight's game must win the next contest between Buffalo and Montreal, slated for 8 p.m. Eastern Saturday night. If and only if we have a Game 7 between the Golden Knights and the Ducks, which would be slated for 5 p.m. Saturday evening, Eastern Time, in Vegas. But to get to the Game 7, the Ducks are going to need to get the job done at home to make sure they're playing Saturday night in Vegas. So while the Avalanche and Hurricanes await the opponents in the Eastern Conference, I feel compelling to ask for NHL fans who are still watching the Cup playoffs this year, who do you think is going to face Colorado? And if you only follow the Eastern Conference, who do you think is going to face Carolina? Personally, I think it's going to be Montreal, but Buffalo has shown some pride, and it looks like they could be a tough out for Carolina. Ideally, as a Canadian hockey fan, even though I do cheer for the Pittsburgh Penguins, I would like to see Montreal win the Cup to get this Canada drought of not winning the Stanley Cup to finally close its doors on the conversation. But if it doesn't happen, I'll be more than happy with the Buffalo Sabres winning the Stanley Cup if they can get by Montreal and then, of course, Carolina. I think it's going to go either way. But personally, I would love to see Montreal versus Carolina or Buffalo versus Carolina. I don't really care how it goes. As for the Western Conference, the Ducks have been playing pretty well, and they're going to need to continue to play pretty well against Vegas, especially if they want to play Saturday in a do-or-die situation in Game 7, meaning the winner on Saturday will play the Colorado Avalanche. Like I said with the Eastern Conference, I personally could see it going either way. So I'll be happy with Ducks versus Avalanche, or even Golden Knights versus Avalanche. I don't have a prediction for the games tonight, but I will say this. I will have a prediction for the Walter Cup series between Montreal and Ottawa coming up in 2 segments' time. With that said, when we continue on episode 8 of season 5, flipping the script a little to some basketball action, I'll give you some of my takeaways from the first win in franchise history for the WNBA's Canada franchise team, the Toronto Tempo. My takeaways from the Tempo's first win in franchise history, plus a possible road prediction on how they're going to do on the road in their first road trip of the new season and their inaugural season. That coming your way next. We will give you a prediction for the Tempo. I'll give you some of my takeaways. And of course, we will answer a few questions as we await, on the day of our recording, the full NFL schedule. Stay tuned later in our episode during Last Call to find out what the next 2 episodes of this show are going to entail. Spoiler alert, the MLB content will return, focusing mainly on the Blue Jays. Plus, we're also going to see what's going on in the NBA playoffs. More on what's in store in a segment time. But when we return, takeaways from Tempo versus Storm, prediction for the Tempo first road trip of their inaugural season in the WNBA, and one of the few games that has leaked for Buffalo Bills fans and is actually going to happen in 2026 NFL season. That and potentially the international games that have been announced, all coming up next. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
Have you ever wondered about the books we've been reading throughout the week?
Are you looking for friendly banter and technology tips at the same time?
Then you've come to the right place.
Check out The Ali and McCara Show. It airs live on Sunday afternoons at 3:30 p.m. Eastern.
Until spring. In the spring, we'll switch back to Mondays.
To learn more about the show, please visit thealiandmccarashow.com.
While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. And besides, it's free.
Enter your email address and hit subscribe.
The Ali and McCara Show is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca.
Enter your email and hit subscribe so you never miss network updates.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Hi, Scott. It's Ali here. I just wanted to mention that I'm really enjoying the show and I'm really enjoying what you're putting together. And I wanted to just say I'm enjoying being a part of it as well. So please keep up the phenomenal work and make sure you guys keep this podcast going because it really suits you well.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down, nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
All right, folks, welcome back to Sports for Beginners, episode 8, season 5, titled Tempo Get Their First Win in the WNBA, PWHL Expansion, PWHL Finals, and of course, much, much more. I know I changed the title there from this point on, but that's okay. The title is what it is. We'll get a better title up there, and it may not look the same when it actually comes out. But anyways, it's time for some WNBA talk. As you've heard over the course of the show, the Toronto Tempo entered their first road trip on a 1-1 record, most recently before the Tempo made history last night in their last game that they played at home. The Tempo have lost to the Washington Mystics by a final score of 68-65. That was their home opener. Now in game number 2, they were able to get the dub for their first dub in the WNBA. And of course, first dub in franchise history. Here was your final score of Wednesday's game. Tempo 86, Storm 73, and it was quite a night for one player in Marina Mabrey. She had quite a night, but if you ask the Toronto Tempo, the player of the game was number 8 on the Tempo. Give it up for Naira Sabali. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Apologies if I did not. But Naira Sabali picking up 8 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. She was the player of the game for the Tempo in their win. 3 players that, according to the Tempo post 18 hours ago after the game, 3 players that they highlighted were Marina Mabrey, 26 points for her on the evening, Maria Condell, 16, and Brittany Sykes, 18 points for Brittany Sykes. She had quite a nice game. In fact, respecting Toronto Tempo and respecting the WNBA, I am just going to play what they posted here from their Twitter page, now that we call it X. But here's what Marina Mabrey had to say after the win, as she was courtside after the ball game ended. This is Marina Mabrey with Reagan Subban after the team picked up their first dub in franchise history and first dub in the WNBA. Enjoy. Marina Mabrey and Reagan Subban speaking post-game after the win.
trusted me and I can come through for them. And then they always come through for me too with some great screens, great cuts, and finding me for threes. So all the credit to them.
You guys got a 4-game road trip coming up. How do you build off of this momentum?
Just like remembering the things that worked for us in this game and the things that were good for us. And then just our defense is going to fuel everything right now while we figure the offense out as a new team. So go out there and be scrappy on defense and try to run and bring a lot of energy.
Congrats on the win. Thank you.
Thanks.
There you go, Marina Mabry and Reagan Subban speaking post-game after an 86-73 victory on home court for the Toronto Tempo. They beat the Storm in an attendance record of 8,142 fans in attendance at Coca-Cola Coliseum. They take down the Storm 86-73, and now they have a date with the Los Angeles Sparks, who have had an interesting awakening to their opener of the season. They have lost the first 2 games of the year, losing 87-78 to the Indiana Fever. They did not play on May 8th. They actually opened their season on May 10th, and they lost that game 105-78. So the Tempo played on Friday, lost 68-65. The Storm played 2 games before playing Toronto. They lost 91-80 to the Golden State Valkyries on opening night when Toronto made their debut. They also picked up a L on Sunday, May 10th. I should say they picked up a win on Sunday, May 10th, with an 89-82 victory over the Connecticut Sun. But it was Wednesday, May 13th, earlier this week, last night to the exact as we record this, when they picked up their second L of the season, and the Toronto Tempo picked up their first win in franchise history and first win in the WNBA. On that same night, by the way, the Toronto Blue Jays salvaged a series against their division rivals, the Tampa Bay Rays, who took the series in Toronto 2-1, but Toronto got the dub in extra innings and in a big way. Dalton Varsho at the plate, 1 out, and the bases juiced. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at second base, George Springer at third base, Kazuma Okamoto at first base, and Dalton Varsho ends the game in extra innings as the Blue Jays knocked off the Rays yesterday 5-3 to improve their record from 18-24 to 19-24. The Rays, as a result of the loss, dropped to 28-14 on the season. All right, so a couple of takeaways here from that game. First and foremost, Marina Mabry, have yourself a night. 26 points by number 3 of the Tempo in that game. And she was dropping down a lot of threes. She really was. She was dropping down a lot of threes. 26 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists for Mabry, 4 steals. She made 20 of her field goals. I should say 9 of her field goals in 20 attempts, shooting 45% from the field. She made 6 of those 11 threes, shooting 54.5% from 3, shooting 100% from the line. No offensive rebounds for Marina Mabry, but she picked up 4 defensive rebounds, 1 turnover, was a plus 14. Another person that was standing out to me, not quite a big factor for the Tempo as far as their starting 5, but the next big player that got a big number of points, and that was Brittany Sykes. 18 points for Brittany Sykes, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 5 field goals made on 14 attempts, shooting 35.7% from the field. She unfortunately had 2 attempts to score a three-pointer, but she was not able to make any of those attempts from the free-throw line. I should say not from the free-throw line, from three-point range, I should say. So no percentage there. She made 8 of the 9 free-throw attempts she had, shooting 88.9% from the line, had 4 offensive rebounds, 4 defensive rebounds, 2 personal fouls, and 4 turnovers. She was a plus 11 in plus minus. But I can't take anything away from the starters for Seattle, just as much as I would like to take some stuff away from the Tempo. So to wrap up my takeaways from the game, how about the performance from Seattle Storm starter Dominique Malonga. Hopefully I got that right. Dominique, if I pronounced the last name wrong, superior apologies in case I did. But you had quite a day. You had quite a day, I must say. 21 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, 9 field goals made on 19 attempts, shooting 47.4% from the field. She made 2 of her 3-pointers, shooting 66.7% from 3. She went to the free throw line 4 times and made 1 of the 4 free throws she had, shooting 25% from the line. 1 offensive rebound, 1 turnover, 1 personal foul, was a minus 10, and 6 defensive rebounds for Dominique. What a day for her. Well, there was a player on the bench for the Tempo that did come off as a surprise to me, but I'm talking about first for the Storm, Jade Melbourne. Wow, what a day for her. 14 points off the bench, 1 rebound, 6 assists, 3 steals, no blocks, 9 field goal attempts, 5 of those 9 made, shooting 55.6% from the field, 1 free throw made, shooting 33.3% from 3. She was perfect at the line, shooting 3 for 3. She made all 3 of her 3-throw attempts, shooting 100% from there. No defensive rebounds for her, 1 offensive rebound, 4 personal fouls, 4 turnovers, was a minus 5. But she had a pretty good night, despite what many others will say. Off the Toronto bench, the player I'm looking at, Kiki Rice, 12 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. Not too shabby for Kiki Rice. She also played 20 minutes and 30 seconds. Continuing to look at Kiki Rice, she had 5 field goals made off of 9 attempts, no blocks. And let's see, what else did Kiki get? Have any steals? No steals. How about 3-point lane? What does she do from 3-point? She made 1 of the 3 3-pointers that she had, shooting 33.3% from the field, rather from 3. 56.3% from the field. Did she go to the line? Yes, Kiki Rice did go to the line, and she made the only 3-throw that she had, shooting 100% from the line. Offensive rebound. Let's see. Kiki, no offensive rebound, but 2 defensive rebounds, no turnovers. However, she did end the night with a minus 3 and 3 personal fouls. The plus 11 player on the bench for the Tempo, Maria C., in case I pronounced the name wrong, 6 defensive rebounds, 5 personal fouls, was a plus 11. 1 turnover for her. 2 offensive rebounds. Did not go to the line, so did not have a shot at the line for a free throw. She shot 50% from 3-point range, making 4 of 8 3-pointers in the ball game. She shot 46.2% from the field, being 6 of the 13 field goals she had. She made 6 of those field goals out of 13. 1 steal in the game, no blocks, no assists, but 8 points off of rebounds and 16 points off the bench. Not too shabby for players like Maria Condon, Maria C as I called her, Marina Mabry, Brittany Sykes. I also mentioned a takeaway from Naira Sabali. I thought she was pretty well played in this one. And from Seattle, we mentioned Dominique. We also mentioned Jade Melbourne. She had a pretty good night. All in all, it is what it is, and the game is what it is. But man, oh man, Toronto, did it feel great to get a win, not just on the baseball diamond that same night, but also get a win on the basketball court in your inaugural season. The Tempo will hit the road now for 4 games in 6 nights, which means they will now play the Los Angeles Sparks twice, including tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Game time on Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern, also against the Sparks. So the Sparks will host the Tempo on Friday and Sunday for the first 2 games of the 4-game road trip, which will end in Minnesota against the Lynx. Game time 8 p.m. Eastern, that timeline on Thursday, May 2026. Game time for the game before that is Tuesday, May 19th at 10 p.m. Eastern in Phoenix against the Phoenix Mercury. So 2 games at 10 p.m., 1 against the Mercury, 1 against the Sparks, 1 game against the Sparks at 7 p.m. Against Minnesota Lynx, they will play at 8 p.m. Eastern before they come home on Saturday, May 23rd to take on the Portland Fire. Game time 6 p.m. Eastern. Then it's the road and then back home for another go with it at the Storm. Storm once again coming into town. Looking for a little revenge there, but we shall see. What an afternoon game between the Storm and Toronto on May 30th. With that said, here's my prediction. I predict the Tempo on this 4-game road trip, which begins tomorrow. I predict the Tempo will win one of the 2 games against the Sparks. They will take down Phoenix in Phoenix. And I also predict that they will find a way to defeat the Lynx of Minnesota on May 20th. So I'm predicting the road trip for the Tempo to go 3-1 with a win against the Sparks, a loss against the Sparks, a loss against the Mercury, a win against the Mercury, and a win against the Lynx of Minnesota. I predict they will go 3-1 on the road trip. In their short homestand to kick off the regular season, they are 1-1 with a 68-65 loss to the Mystics on May 8th. And just last night, an 86-73 win, an 86-73 win over the Storm of Seattle. As we're going to go into our final break of the program after this, the Storm and Tempo will not meet again, and at least not meet again in Toronto until Saturday, May 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern. That will be the Storm at the Tempo once again, but that won't come our way until Saturday, May 30th, 2026. All right, folks, last call on the way. Plus, as we get to last call, you'll get my prediction and which Canadian club I think is going to get the job done and become the first Canadian club in PWHL history to win the Walter Cup. My prediction on the Walter Cup, plus 1 or 2 of the games that are official and have leaked in the NFL schedule, coming up next. Stay with us.
Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
Hey Allie, did you know we have a books panel?
I did not know that. When is it?
It takes place on the last Friday of each month at 7:30 p.m. Eastern,
where we have fun and engaging conversations
about a book that one of the panelists picks.
So, how can I learn more about the show?
To learn more, please visit bookspanel.ca. While you're there, subscribe to the newsletter so you never miss an update. Besides, it's free. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
The Books Panel is part of the Musa Slobodian Network, where good conversations happen.
To learn more about the network, please visit themusaslobodiannetwork.ca. While you're over there, hit subscribe so you never miss a network update. Enter your email and hit subscribe.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Well, folks, we've almost been recording for like an hour and 11 minutes right now. But you know what? It's okay. We're keeping things to a minimal as much as we can. Some breaking news that brought out to our attention. The Oilers, not only did they fire head coach Chris Knobloch, but they also let go of assistant coach Mark Stewart. Oilers general manager Stan Bowman said, "This was a tough decision, no question. Looking back at the way we ended the previous season, falling just short of the Stanley Cup and the first two seasons that Chris had with the team, it was the decision we made that we felt he had earned that contract extension. And then as the season went on, at the end of the year when I met with the group, I mentioned we were going to do a thorough review and try to understand how we got to this point." One of the other quotes Bowman said was, "I think we're definitely part to blame for where we are today. We're not trying to hide from that. There's no question that was the case here. We have a team where we had players that didn't perform to the level they should. We had players that I brought in that didn't perform to the level that we expected them to. So it's on myself. There's blame to be had by all of us, myself included. So this is not all on Chris Knobloch and Mark Stewart. That's not the case. But in the assessment, we believe that there can be some better performances from players here, and we need that for our team to be successful." McDavid said the Oilers were an average team with high expectations after a 5-2 loss to the Ducks in Game 6. The finalists for the Hart Trophy given to the NHL Most Valuable Player will enter the first of a 2-year contract he signed October 6, 2025, and is eligible to become an unrestricted free agent at the end of the 2027-2028 season. Draisaitl will enter the second of an 8-year, $112 million contract that has an average annual value of $14 million next season. And McDavid said, in quote, "It's only a couple of days ago I made those comments, and I feel the same as I did a couple of days ago, and agree with Leon that the organization as a whole has taken a step back. It starts with me, it starts with Leon. We can all be better. We need to be better." All right. So there's some coaching changing happening in Edmonton. And of course, we don't have a coach replacement named right now. Speaking of coaching replacements, before we dive right into last call, as I'm sure Maple Leaf fans already know, Craig Berube, it was very shocking that a guy like Craig Berube was fired and is not going to be a part of the team that has a front office with Matt Sundin and, of course, John Chayka behind the front office. David McCarthy, in case you haven't seen it yet, Craig Berube was fired as coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs on Wednesday. No replacement was named. The 60-year-old went 84, 62, and 18 in 2 seasons after taking over for Sheldon Keefe, who was fired on May 9th, 2024. Maple Leaf general manager John Chayka said a coaching change was necessary because of a need for an organizational shift, saying, quote, "We didn't make this decision in a vacuum. It's a bigger picture decision, and it's not just about the coach. Just feel there's some things we need to change and do better and be better. And that starts with Matt Sundin and myself at the top with Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment CEO Keith Pelly and the board aligned on a vision and the path ahead. The new coach will determine the makeup of the remainder of the staff. John Chayka declined to specify the areas that require change beyond the coach. He met with Berube over the weekend and emphasized the decision was not a reflection of his coaching ability, despite the Maple Leafs allowing 3.60 goals per game this season, 31st in the NHL, saying he's a great man, a very good coach, and did a lot of good things here. That's not lost on me. I told him I hope to lead with the same class and grace that he did in his time here. Moving forward, we felt like after reviewing the organization and spending some time in the facility, meeting with the staff, we felt like this was the right decision on the path ahead. It was an organizational decision. It was not a verdict on Craig's coaching. I think it stands for itself. We felt this was the right decision at this time. And with that being said, we drop in our show to Last Call. And as we begin Last Call, here is what I have as a prediction for the 2026 Walter Cup Playoff Finals. The teams from Canada that are competing are Captain Clutch Marie-Philippe Poulin and the Montreal Victoire. And on the other side of the coin, under head coach Carla McLeod, it's the Ottawa Charge. The Charge and the Victoire. Well, which team do I think is going to win the Walter Cup this year? You know what? I'll be happy with either team, but if I had to make a prediction, I would say the Victoire get their glory and win the Walter Cup in 5 games against Ottawa. I don't think it's going to go 4 games. I don't think it's going to go 3 games. Give me the Victoire winning in do-or-die fashion in Game 5 of the Walter Cup Finals. And I could be wrong with my prediction, but I'm taking the Victoire to win the cup in 5 games against the Charge. One thing's for sure, the series will be a good one, and definitely start a rivalry between Ottawa and Montreal. All right, folks, there was some news that leaked as we approach the end of our program and we approach timeline for the NFL 2026 season. One of the biggest news stories, other than the Buffalo Bills, which we'll get to in a second, was the international schedule, which dropped yesterday. Buffalo Bills fans, Denver Bronco fans, and Miami Dolphin fans, in the 2026 NFL season, you will not be going international this year. Teams that will be going international this year, they are the New England Patriots, plus the San Francisco 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles, Washington Commanders, Jacksonville Jaguars, and so many more. I actually have it on my notes here what has been confirmed, so I'll break it down for you based on matchup. In the international schedule, we kick things off in week 1 with a showdown in Melbourne, Australia. 9 regular season games will be played internationally, beginning in Melbourne, Australia, as the San Francisco 49ers visit the Los Angeles Rams. Kickoff time on September 10th, 2025, scheduled for 8:35 p.m. Eastern Time from Melbourne Cricket Ground Stadium. Next up, we go to week number 3, September 27th at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Rio de Janeiro is the site for the Baltimore Ravens and the Dallas Cowboys. The Ravens and Cowboys are heading to Brazil for a tilt on September 27th at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Week 4, 5, and 6, we got games international there. Game time, as it's a 3-week pit stop in London. Week 4, October 4th, 2026, will feature the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Washington Commanders. Game time, a.m. Eastern. So Commanders and Colts fans, if you want to catch that game at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium here in your local area, make sure you go to bed early the night before October 4th, because October 4th, 30 a.m. Eastern, it's Colts, it's Commanders, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, England. The next team to play a 9:30 a.m. also at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the Philadelphia Eagles, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Early start time in week number 5, October 11th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Week 6, Jaguars host the Texans, 9:30 2026. To week 7 we go, and guess what? On October 25th, the NFL will be in Paris, France, for a showdown between the New Orleans Saints and the Pittsburgh Steelers at Stade de France. 9:30 a.m. is kickoff Eastern Time. Kickoff at 9:30 a.m. Eastern in Madrid on week number 9 of the season, as the Cincinnati Bengals and the Atlanta Falcons are Madrid bound for an early start game. By the way, the game for Pittsburgh and the Saints is at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on October 25th, 2026. In case you missed it. November 8th, week number 9, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Madrid is the home of the Atlanta Falcons and the visitor of the Cincinnati Bengals. Running down the international schedule here, off we go to week number 10. Those games wrap up in week number 11, but in week number 10, November 15th, 2026, the New England Patriots go to Munich, Germany. Let's just say they go to Germany for a showdown at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And last but certainly not least, Mexico City, Mexico will host the Week 11 matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the San Francisco 49ers. Mexico City, Mexico will host game time 8:20 p.m. Eastern. So a couple of 9:30 games, including Eagles, Jaguars, Jaguars, Texans, Steelers, Saints, Bengals, Falcons. We have one 4:25 p.m. game in the international schedule. That will be the Ravens and Cowboys, Rams and Niners at 8:35 p.m. Eastern, and at, of course, 9:30 a.m. to add to Bengals, Falcons, Steelers, Saints, Texans, Jaguars, Eagles, Jaguars, and Commanders Colts. We've got the Lions and the Pats going head to head. The only other game, but it's at 8 p.m. Well, 20 minutes after 8 p.m. to be exact. That's the Minnesota Vikings and the San Francisco Niners. Should be a good one between the Niners and the Vikings. One of the big games that did break in Buffalo Bills news is that in week number 2, the Buffalo Bills will open the new Highmark Stadium in prime time. Yep, you heard me. And the Buffalo Bills confirmed this. The Buffalo Bills will open their season in week 2 at home in prime time. Now, who are they playing? Well, the answer is Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. They will kick off the home schedule with Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions coming into town as Buffalo plays on a short week going into week number 2. Now, it's been leaked that the Buffalo Bills will open the season in Texas against Houston, but we don't quite know that for certain. We don't. Anyways, it's been leaked based on what I've been seeing that the Buffalo Bills will play the Houston Texans in week 1. Now, they could play Houston in week 1, or they could play somebody else. So I know this is a little late because the schedule officially drops tonight. It officially drops tonight at 8 Eastern. But I want to know from Bills fans, who would you rather play in week 1? It is also rumored, or rather leaking, that the Buffalo Bills will be playing in American Thanksgiving weekend. And who are they playing? Who else but the pesky Kansas City Chiefs? We'll know how much of this is true by the time you hear this show, and we'll also know by 8 p.m. tonight, Eastern Time. With that said, folks, just before we wrap it up here, on the next episode of Sports for Beginners, the podcast, we dive deeper into Buffalo's regular season showdowns. Are they indeed playing on Thanksgiving in America? Will they play on Christmas? How many primetime games are they going to play? We'll touch on all of that, plus the latest news that we have been hearing about but didn't get to today. Episodes 9 and 10, that's next episode, and the following episode after that, will be all about the NFL schedule release. We'll start off with most of our program following on episode 9, the AFC conference, game by game, week by week. Then on episode 10, I should say, we jump to the NFC side, game by game, week by week, all the way to the bye week, with the exception of MLB news happening on episode 9, some WNBA action also happening on episode 9 as well. We'll wrap up things with the PWHL on episode 10, plus check in on the NHL, and so much more. So those are some episode 10 and 9 of season 5 things to consider. Both, like this episode, will all be audio recorded. But for the next 2 episodes, who's playing whom in what week in 2026 NFL schedule? We'll start with the AFC. Then in the next episode, we go to the NFC, with the exception of some MLB news, PWHL news, WNBA news, and more, split between episodes. Talk to you after the schedule is released in the NFL, potentially on a PWHL recap special when the champion is crowned. And once and for all, we will also chat with you on MLB news and WNBA news galore on future episodes. But for now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for being with us. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day or evening or whenever you may be tuning in. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon. This is Scott McGregor saying so long from Sports for Beginners. We'll talk to you real soon.
Thank you so much for listening to Sports for Beginners. If you would like to learn more about the show, you can visit the podcast Facebook page or visit the official website. You can also send us an email at sportsforbeginnerspodcast8231@gmail.com. As we always remind you, it is not goodbye, it is until next time.